Hey guys, it's Michael with Tennessee Survivalist. Well, coming back at you with the first in a series of videos on the 10 C's mentality. If you're not familiar with the 10 C's, back up and watch the video before this, where I explain basically what the 10 C's of survival are, where I picked it up from, why I teach and really push this mentality on the foundation for all of my emergency gear or anything like that. What we're going to start with today is the cutting tool. For most people, that would be a knife. There's a few other options that go along with that, and I'm going to go over what I use and why. We'll touch on all these options as we go. Before we get started, I want to say a couple things. Number one, sorry about the weird camera angle. Kind of filming in my junk room in the house today, and don't have a whole lot of room spread out a little bit, so it is what it is. You should be able to see the actual tools and we're going over no problem here. Number two is, due to the design of my bug out bag, everything is set up what I like to call modular. I have items that I carry in my bug out bag. I have items that I carry in what I call my everyday carry pack. It's simply just a shoulder bag, kind of like a haversack, and those two, the bug out bag and the haversack, work together to form my complete emergency gear. I also have a few items I carry in my pants pocket everywhere I go, and there's a few other things we'll discuss as this video goes on. So let's get on to it here. Like I said, we're going to start off with the cutting tool, which for most people is going to be a knife. Just like I said in my preview video, I'm not really promoting any particular brand of tool, gear, anything like that in any of this series. I'm just simply going over the mentality of the categories themselves of the 10 C's of survival. I will show you what I carry, and I will tell you why. Because of that, I will tell you, specific brand names of what I've got, just in case anyone's interested. I'm not saying these are the best out there. I'm just saying that they work for me, and I'll tell you why as I go. For my actual bug out bag, the first thing is I want to have a good, solid, full-blown, what you would call a survival knife. This particular knife here is the Pathfinder trade knife. The reason I chose this knife was, number one, it feels good in my hand. That's something important. It has to be a knife that feels comfortable for you to use. Number two, this is not a perfect knife. There's no such thing as a perfect knife. This is a does-it-all in passable fashion type of knife. I'm going to say it again. A good survival knife will do everything you need in a passable fashion. Kind of like a jack of all trades. It's not a master of any one use of a knife, but it'll do a little bit of everything. The blade shape lends it really good to game processing, from anything from large to small game. With some time and some practice, even fish and birds can even be processed with this, just simply because of the shape of the blade. It's patterned a lot like some older kitchen knives or butcher knives, and there's a reason for that. The pioneers of this country, that's simply what they used for the most part. They didn't have custom knives made by the local smith to suit their needs. They took kitchen knives and butcher knives and reshaped them, reprofiled them to suit what they thought would work best for them in the woods. And a lot of times they would reshape and recut and regrind things as they go, because they seen that this particular shape or design was not quite working right. So I really like this blade profile for a do-it-all knife. The knife blade is 5 inches long. That gives me a good solid 4 inches of thickness of wood that I can baton with this knife to process down firewood. It's plenty heavy enough to do even heavier duty stuff than that. The blade profile is just not any longer, or not long enough. If it was any longer, it would, for me, would get in the way doing more detailed work. So the shape and the length of the blade lends itself perfectly for a survival knife for me. The blade is 3/16 inch thick, For me, a good survival knife needs to be at least that thick. 1/4 inch would be even better for super heavy duty. They didn't offer this in 1/4 inch. 3/16 has held up fine for several years for me. It is made of 1095 high carbon steel. That's got some of the highest carbon content of any metal you can find. The reason that's important for me is that if I had to resort to more primitive style fires such as flint and steel, then I could simply take a piece of flint or hard rock and strike the spine of the knife blade with it, and it will throw sparks just like a steel striker would. The higher the carbon content, the better it's going to work. Stainless steel will not work at all with flint and steel. It will not throw sparks whatsoever off a piece of hard rock or flint. It has to be some form of carbon content in a non-stainless variety. And the higher the better. That's why I like 1095. Anything down to 1075 will serve the purpose though. The spine has a full 90-degree edge to it. I know you think, well, all knives do, they're not sharpened on the spine, but truthfully, most knives are not. Most knives that are commercially made are actually slightly rounded on the edges so that they're more comfortable if you have to choke up on the knife or your thumb. It also keeps from wearing sheaths out as bad. These bushcraft style sheaths don't really ride on the spine of the knife. These edges are relatively sharp on each side here. And as you can see, it makes a pretty good 90-degree edge. The reason that's important is you need that sharp edge when starting fires with a ferrocerium rod. That sharp edge will allow you to scrape that ferro rod and just throw showers of sparks. And it does not have to be high carbon steel for that to happen. And if you choose a knife that does not have a good square edge on the back, you can fix that with a stone or lightly filing it. Lots of ways. We can get into that later. If anybody has any questions about that, hit me up and I'll be glad to answer them. The knife is a full tang design. And what that simply means is the knife is cut out of one piece of steel and the handle, the scales themselves are attached. As you can see the steel running down through here. Now, just because you see this steel run between the handle scales does not mean it's truly a full tang. It could be a skeleton tang, which means that there's holes cut out in here just for lightness. I would not like to have one like that as a go-to knife. They are more sturdy than other knife handle designs, but for me, for a single go-to knife, if I had to resort to nothing but one knife, this would be it. Or something made like this. Again, this is just what I choose. Fantastic knives. The next knife I keep in my pack is this Mora knife from Mora Knife Manufacturing. This is the Mora Companion in HD carbon steel. Again, high carbon, just like what we spoke about a second ago. Therefore, I can still get sparks from a piece of flint. 90-degree spine, throws sparks really well from ferrocerium rod. Really comfortable handle design. Different blade profile, and I'll explain that in just a second. First, I want to say this is not a full tang knife. It's what they call a rat tail or tapered tang. The knife blade tapers in to a smaller piece of metal inside here, and the plastic and rubber handle material is simply molded to that. Does not make it bad, by no means. I would definitely not want to be beating on this knife like I could with my full-blown survival knife. The reason I choose this knife for my kit is because it has incredible edge holding capability. It's a Scandinavian style edge, just like the first knife we talked about. About the same thickness. I'd have to put a micrometer on it to see for sure, but it's roughly 3/16 of an inch thick. The blade is a lot narrower, as you can see, and comes to a sharper point. This makes it really good, really good for any kind of kitchen duties, for game butchering, carving, skinning, you name it. It's an excellent, excellent woodcraft or bushcraft style knife. The blade, kind of the grip is comfortable. The blade design does fine detail carving really, really, really well, which is why it made its way in my kit. The knife is really heavy duty. The only drawback to it at all is the blade length is a ½ inch shorter than I would prefer. It's only 4½ inches, and for an all-purpose knife, I'd want one at least 5 inches, like we discussed a second ago, and it's not full tang. Other than that, incredibly good knife. If you don't own one of these, do yourself a favor and grab one. You can pick them up for less than 20 bucks about anywhere that sells more knives. Those are the two knives I keep in my bug out bag. When we step down to my haversack, which also does extra duty as it goes hunting with me, fishing, camping, that little bag goes everywhere I go. I've got another small fixed blade knife. This one's kind of different. I can't tell you a lot about it. It was a gift. This Kydex sheath's just something I threw together that didn't have a sheath for it. I will be making a nice leather sheath for it later down the road. This thing's pretty ugly, but it keeps the blade off. This is a skinning style knife, pretty small. Lots of companies make knives in this blade profile. The blade profile itself does not lend itself to all-purpose survival or bushcraft very well at all, but it does enough right for me that it makes its way into my everyday kit. So let's talk about that. It is a full tang design, but it is stainless steel. I'm not knocking stainless, but there's varying degrees of quality in stainless, and this may even be handmade. It doesn't have a country of origin stamped in the blade anywhere. It's simply stamped Jabe's Cutlery. I don't know if that's a custom handmade. This was a hand-me-down knife. I said it was a gift. I don't really know where you can buy this particular knife. I can tell you lots of companies make this blade profile. I liked it because it's a 3/4 flat grind, which is odd for a skinning style blade. Which means the blade grind on it is very similar to kitchen knives, which makes it able to be sharpened, razor sharp. This is literally shaving sharp right here. It had a pretty good 9-degree spine on it, and with just a little bit of file work, it will throw showers of sparks off the ferrocerium rod. I can do some survival tasks with it. I can make feather sticks, tiny little pieces of wood. If I had a piece of small kindling that I needed to process down into really small, tender size sticks and twigs, I can use this for that, no problem. It doesn't work real well for detail carving, but it does work well enough that you can make primitive traps, cut notches, grooves, things like that with it, no problem. Its blade design works pretty well for defense. Not that I really want to get in a knife fight, but this blade design does work pretty well for that. Therefore, it's made its way into my everyday kit. Next, in my everyday pack, my haversack are 2 specialty type knives. This one's really cheap, and I could tell you, you can definitely live without it. I'm going to tell you what it is and why I carry it. It's a modern version of the old camp knives, scout knives, hobo knives, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, it's got a fork on one side, a spoon on the other. This is a little cheap one from Walmart. I think it's only like $5. When you open the fork and spoon, it actually separates into 2 halves. It's just something kind of handy, and it gives me a couple of extra tools that I didn't otherwise have. Got a can opener and bottle opener on it. It's got a corkscrew. Not sure why you would really need these. Does have a third knife that I keep in here. I do keep this one really, really sharp. It's easy to sharpen, it's easy to dull, but it's there in an emergency. Pretty much everywhere on this tool that I could find that had a relatively square edge, I've taken a file to it and squared it off that much more. So even this will work in a bind for a striker for my ferrocerium rod. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. wasn't really heavy enough to worry about adding the weight, and it's just kind of handy. This little feller here looks like it's a regular pocket knife or jackknife. It's actually a wood carving tool made by Old Timer, and for me, it was invaluable to have in my kit. That way I can make things on the go. I can also improvise traps, things like that, much quicker having specialty tools. You've got a small carving blade, which is incredibly sharp. This is all carbon steel too, by the way. It also comes with, get them out of here, this 90-degree V-shaped gouge for carving out 90-degree edges or squared edges in the convex, dishing out a piece of wood for any reason. Let's see, we've got a straight chisel style gouge for removing thin pieces of wood long ways parallel with your grain. On the other end, you've got a straight curved gouge, works just like the straight chisel, only for digging out troughs, maybe getting some things started like spoons, bowls, couscous, things like that. Then you've got a more aggressive scoop designed for pulling. This works really well for spoon making or anywhere where you want to carve out a concave dish out of a piece of wood. And last, you have a version of a spoon knife. I would prefer it to have a little bit longer shaft to this before the dished out part, but it works pretty well. It can also be flipped over and used to round off edges. Just a handy little knife. There's several on the market made like this. Flex Steel is one of the most popular, and they're over $100. This little Old Timer was less than $25. I've used it quite a bit. I really like it. I like having the specialty tools, therefore that's why it goes in my everyday kit. Now we're going to go into things that are in my pocket every day, which also complement my haversack and my bug out bag. Number one is this simple buck lock blade. These have been around for years and years and years. This is the Buck 110. As you can see, it's had quite a bit of use on it. These knives hold their edge really well. Something about the blade angle, the grind angle that Buck puts on these, lends itself to an incredibly long-lasting edge. It does make them a little harder to sharpen, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. The knife has this reverse cut back here, which is really just for looks for the most part, but it works really well when closed for striking a ferrocerium rod. Again, makes your tools do double duty. And the last thing I carry is this little pocket knife. This is a fairly old knife made by Imperial. Doesn't have, again, I'm not promoting any particular brand, just telling you what I carry and why. I like this one. It's got a real good lockup steel, good walk and talk. The blades are carbon steel on this. You don't find many pocket knives with carbon steel blades anymore, and I just really like carbon steel. I've told you about some of these other knives. You do have to keep it oiled or it will rust. This one's had a lot of patina on it. It's had a lot of use over the years. It's still razor sharp. It's very easy to sharpen. This is the only knife I have that will not throw sparks from ferro rod, just because I didn't want to take file to the back side of it to make it a square edge, simply because it's got a lot of age to it, a lot of history, this old knife. I've had it for a lot of years. If I wanted to, I could definitely do that. If it wasn't for the sentimental value on the knife, I probably would. Now, the one last thing I want to talk about as far as kit goes is, some people have this, some don't, but if you feel the need to have some sort of combat loadout, plate carrier, tactical vest, for me it's a battle belt and harness kit, you need some kind of knife on that too. And that knife needs to be able to do your basic survival tasks, but in my opinion, it should also make a good combat knife as well. This one I have here is the Gerber Prodigy. Again, it was a gift, and it just happened to fit well in that aspect of my kit. I had modified the sheaths to make it where it will strap onto my gear better than what it come with. But let's talk about the knife itself. Although it doesn't look like it, I'm looking at it. According to Gerber, this is a full tang knife. It's got good weight to it. It's a solid 1/4 of an inch thick, pretty hefty. It has a really good 90-degree spine, so I know it's going to throw sparks off my ferro rod. It is coated. I generally remove coatings, but since this is stainless steel underneath, I didn't worry about that because it's not going to work with flint and steel regardless. It has been used quite a bit. I haven't beat it to death because it's not always on my hip. It stays on my gear for the most part. It's got this sharp pommel designed for smashing things. It comes to really sharp points there. A nice convex edge. Comes pretty sharp out of the box. It holds an edge pretty well. Cut's pretty decent. The only thing I don't like about it is it's half serrated. I'm not a serrated knife or serrated edge fan at all. But again, the knife is a gift, and for the most part it serves its purpose. This knife would be perfect for what I use it for if it was a straight edge all the way back. I just don't have a lot of love for serrated edges. Makes it where you can't do a lot of detail work up close to your hand where you want to do for fine carving, but for this knife's intended purposes, it's not really an issue. I do bear in mind that there are differences in steel from knife companies. Gerber does make a good knife, contrary to what people want you to believe. The difference is in the country of origin. Not all Gerbers are made in China, not all Gerbers are made in the United States. A lot of the Chinese Gerbers do not hold up as well. They may make a fine everyday knife, but they would not hold up for my uses in the field for long-term survival. The American-made ones are really nice. This is an American-made one. It's made in Portland, Oregon. If they only make them in carbon steel, that'd probably be a really good alternative for a do-it-all knife. That's all I got on knives, but I do want to touch on 2 or 3 more things real quick. As far as some other cutting tools, in my bug-out bag, to go along with these knives over here, I also keep a folding saw. Any kind of saw would be beneficial, even if it's just using the one that may be on your multi-tool that you keep in your pocket. This one's made by Fiskars. It's held up just fine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's not better on the market. There are. This one may wear out eventually, and if it does before the sewage hits the fan, then I'm probably going to replace it with a Laplander folding saw by Bahco. They are hands down the best on the market. But this little fella here works. I picked it up at Walmart or Lowe's one. I think the reason I bought it was on sale. I think they generally run about $12 or $14. The Bahco runs around $20 or $25. Just a little bit less expensive, and I wanted to see if I was really going to use it much, and I do. So with that said, get the best one you can afford. Put a saw in your pack. This one has a really sharp spine on it, so it throws sparks from that ferrocerium rod well again. So again, multi-purposes out of one tool. The last 2 things I want to show you real quick is a hatchet and an axe. A lot of people don't want this kind of weight with their packs. I'm going to tell you why I do and why I carry these. This is just a simple carpenter's hatchet. I had no intentions of buying this, but I was wanting a crafting hatchet of some type. And by crafting, I mean something to use for more than just splitting wood. I want something that was fairly lightweight, that would help enable me to build shelters quicker, to do heavy material removal on woodworking projects, any type of bushcraft or woodcraft type work I'm doing, to get down to the point to use my knives. I seen this photo laying on the shelf at Walmart for $18, and I thought, well, you know, what the hell, I'm going to give it a shot. Brought it home. I did have to do some edge work on it because it was designed as a carpenter's hatchet. So I reshaped the edge a little bit to make it shave wood a little bit better, I'm still not quite done with it, but I've got it pretty much where I want it. The handle had a lot of shellac on it. I sanded all the shellac down, just oiled it down with mineral oil. I know that shellac waterproofs, but I don't like the shellac because it will wear blisters on your hands. The smooth wood will do much better on your hands than any kind of coating on it. Just keep it oiled just like I would the head. Whenever I maintain my tools quite often, whenever I do, take an oily rag and wipe it down. The mineral oil wasn't necessary. Any kind of oil will work. Even just use motor oil. Just something to keep the water from soaking into the handle. But that's become part of my kit. It can go. There's a loop on my haversack where I can slide it in it. It can be stuffed into my backpack. I can attach it to my backpack. There's a number of different ways, but it's become invaluable to me. And the last is a small axe. I personally don't like carrying a large felling type axe just because they're so big and heavy. And they could come in handy, most definitely. But for me, this works much better. This particular axe is a light axe. The head is not much heavier than my hatchet. The handle, as you can see, is much shorter than a standard farm axe or felling axe. This particular one is the Trail Boss by Cold Steel. Again, not pushing any particular brands, just telling you what I have and what I like about them. Things I like about this is a carbon steel head. It is forged. Hickory handle. Again, I sanded it down, coated it with a light coat of oil. The edge didn't need much reprofiling. I just took a Lansky puck, a sharpening stone designed for this type of tool, and sharpened it up. That also stays in my kit for field maintenance. Every edge on this thing is pretty square, so if I really had to, I could use that for striking ferro rod. Considering it is carbon steel, if I was to take all this paint off back here, then I could use that as a striker for flint. It's not very heavy. Again, something that I want with my kit. You can make the decision for yourself. I'm just showing you what I carry and why. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a little something. If nothing else, you learn what I carry and why. I don't like telling people that they should just go out and buy this or buy that, especially on a video. If I'm standing here talking to you in person, I can show you why I say what I say by letting you try out my gear or equipment. But long story short, this is what it is. This is my cutting tool kit. And works well for me. If you have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. Look up the Tennessee Survivalist on Facebook. A lot of survival talk, everything from bushcraft to modern day prepping. If you know me personally through my group, feel free to hit me up in person at a meeting or an event. Hit me up on Facebook, send me a message, whatever, if you have any questions or comments. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to go to Tennessee Survivalist on YouTube and subscribe. Share this video away. Hopefully it helped you a lot. Thanks for watching, guys.